my cousin, because he is like the starch skeptic that I know. He always is like, Jess, I set out a recorder for a week. I didn't catch anything. There's no ghost. But once
Oh,
he started to see
yeah.
that there was some coverage about the UFO phenomenon, UAP phenomenon, in the mainstream, he comes to me and he says, Jess, if UFOs are real, then possibly, I'm starting to think, what if ghosts are real? Is it
Mhm.
possible that we're not in a reality that we think is real?
Sometimes you kind of see you do. You see the absurdity of the construct of society,
Yes,
and it's
100%.
very liberating and yet disturbing at the same time.
Horrifying.
It's horrifying. Yeah.
Horrifying.
Yeah, because you're going, "Well, I don't want to do this." If you like today's content, please like, subscribe, comment down below, and of course, you can find the video interview on youtube.com/paranormalpop. Hello, welcome back to this episode of Coffee and UFOs. My special guest is Jess Rogge of Escape the Simulation Radio. I'm extraordinarily excited to have Jess on here. I think we have a lot in common, and I think you'll appreciate this conversation as well. Jess, welcome to Coffee and UFOs.
Oh, thank you for having me, Alan. I'm so excited. I have my cup of coffee ready to go.
Oh, cheers.
Cheers to that.
What is,
I love
what
coffee.
is life without it? Seriously.
I know. This is my second cup this morning. I usually have 2 cups.
Yeah, in the morning
Mm-hmm.
or throughout the whole day.
Mm. Just in the morning. I find if I have coffee after 6, then I'm like,
Mhm.
I want to go to bed.
Yeah. Well, for me, I drink it like nonstop all day long, all night long. Probably. When did you start drinking coffee? I started when I was a teen.
I started when I was a teen too. It was like, oh, you want to try these like Starbucks coffee bean things? So I started with like those like whipped blended drinks, and then as I went to the movie theater and they'd have like a coffee guy, and I'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna get a cappuccino, get all hyped
Yeah,
up and watch movies.
exactly. And that's how they get the kids. So
No, it's
I was eating
true.
these. Yeah, I was eating chocolate covered espresso beans because they were
Mhm.
delicious. But oh
They're
my
delicious.
god!
Then you're
But
just
yeah,
like,
they exactly. That's the look. It's like, I'm ready now.
How many cups have you had this morning?
None.
Plus?
5, but yours is better.
You have a problem.
Yes, I do.
I'm ready.
Um,
Let's talk about stuff.
Yeah, I used to eat it before like a play or a musical or something, and I'd just be like totally amped up.
Yeah.
But then I couldn't sleep either the
Mhm,
whole night.
mhm.
So, Jess, you are the host of Escape the Simulation
Yes.
on Fringe FM, and it airs Wednesdays live, 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you've been doing this for, I think, is it 2 years as the Rogie Report?
It was the Rogie Report for a little over 2 years. Prior to that, I worked on a ton of shows, and I had many other shows. So I've been doing this for 4 or 5 years,
For
but
5
I've
years,
only
yeah.
kind of taken off recently.
Yeah, no, that's great, and I'm so excited, and I love the new name, Escape the Simulation.
Thank you, thank
Um,
you.
and in regard to the simulation, have you ever seen a UFO?
Here's the thing. I've seen lights in the sky. I've
Uh,
never seen a craft, never seen an alien.
yeah.
But I've talked to a ton of people who have. You know what I mean? So for
Mhm.
me, it's not a personal experience, but it is something I do find very intriguing.
So when you say a light in the sky, would you still categorize it as an unidentified flying object or not so much?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't know. It's so far, you can't tell. You see these lights that behave
Yeah, yeah.
strangely, and it's hard. I mean, I guess it's unidentified because you don't know what it is. But I've seen lights behave strangely. I've seen colored lights move around, change color. Not a
Mhm.
drone. You know what I mean? But anything other than that, I would love to see a craft. That would like cement any knowing about the subject if I saw a craft in the sky.
Oh, so do you have doubts about, about UFOs being a thing, a real thing, being
Um,
otherworldly, as it were?
I guess I do believe that there are UFOs, but I think recently I've kinda come into this knowledge that, if it I've been studying them for more than 10 years, and I figured if it was in my vibration to see one, I would have seen one. So it might not be part of my actual reality, but it's part of a lot of other people's realities, if that makes sense.
Kind of. I think it does. What do you mean by vibration?
Like, different people have different energy, you know what I mean? Like, some people see ghosts, some people see cryptids, some people see all of them, some people see UFOs.
Yeah.
Um, and I just think, it's just not it's probably not gonna happen for me. I've been out there, I've done a lot of things to try to see them, and I said, "You know what?
Mm.
If it was gonna happen, it was gonna happen," but it hasn't happened. So for me, I probably won't ever see one. But if you've seen one, other people have seen one, that's good. It's awesome. But
I'm
yeah.
kind of in a similar mindset. For me, I truly believe that if I continue to not want to attract dark spirits or ghosts or anything like that, it's not going to happen to me. Like I'm totally convinced. I feel very 100% confident in that regard. So is that what you mean? Kind of like
Yeah.
your mindset? Okay.
Yeah, like, it's just not gonna happen. Like, I don't feel like it's gonna happen for me.
But I think a lot of people would feel that way, and then it does happen, right?
Yeah, it does, but I think too, like, because as I've been studying this phenomenon and talking to people over time, this may or may not be popular what I say, but what I noticed from talking to all these people over all these years is
Mhm.
that the UFO phenomenon ends up triggering some sort of spirit, usually for most people, some sort of spiritual evolution where they start seeking out more in this world. You know what I
Right.
mean? So,
Yeah.
but for me, because I'm already very curious, perhaps I don't need that to trigger me to look into these things further. So I mean, this is only my Jess theory about why and why not, you know what I mean?
No, it's a good jest theory. Is that like an official thing?
It's just my theory, my Jess theory.
You should have a blog post. Jest
Jess
theory,
Jess theory. You
chapter
wanna
1.
hear
Right.
what do you think? This is what I think about this.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think, I think that's true to f to the for the most part. For me, I think it's kind of both. Like I'm trying to think back and how far back my interest in spiritual and more metaphysical concepts goes, but there is something about the mystery
Mhm.
of something. So, I saw a UFO when I was about 12 years old. It was
Nice.
more like a light in the sky, but it was moving, it was behaving, oddly, and it was undefinable and still is. So then it makes you wonder, like, oh, what else is out there? What more do we have to discover? And so there is, and it definitely is a spiritual element to that. Because why would we even want to know? Why do we even care anyway? If there isn't like a deeper psychological desire. Otherwise, I just put food on the table and go to work and go about my job. And so what? I saw a UFO. Moving on, right? But
Mhm.
it sparks something else deeper. What do you think that is?
I think what it sparks is like, oh, past this normal 3D existence, oh, there is more out there, and I've had, I like to bring up my cousin, because he is like the starch skeptic that I know. He always is like, Jess, I set out a recorder for a week. I didn't catch anything. There's no ghost, But once
Oh,
he started to see
yeah.
that, there was some coverage about the UFO phenomenon, UAP phenomenon, in the mainstream, he comes to me and he says, "Jess, if UFOs are real, then possibly, I'm starting to think, what if ghosts are real?"
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yes, I think it's funny. I've talked about this before. I do think that the bigger, uh, the larger impact of, let's say, the New York Times taking
Mhm.
UFOs seriously is that some one subject that one considers utterly absurd suddenly becomes conceivable.
Yes.
Then what does that mean about these other concepts and these other ideas of reality? Because you said though that was absurd, and now it's not. You've just opened up a whole avenue of inquiry, and that's I mean, that's what you do on your show.
Yeah.
Um, Do you think that okay, quick question,
Sure.
because I always ask people this, and I always forget. What did you think about Matrix 4?
I love The Matrix 4. I mean, I know some people didn't like it, but,
Mhm.
looking at it, and I just really enjoyed it. It was a
Yeah.
great movie, and I think, it reminded me, of back when the original Matrix came out, and to me, that was impactful at the time. I was like, "Holy crap, what is the Matrix? What do we" is it
Mhm.
possible that we're not in a reality that we think is real or that is real? And so that question keeps haunting me over these years, and watching The Matrix 4, it shows you that, the Matrix is still there, and it makes you wonder, you know, are we living in that type of world? Not necessarily like we're in these gooey pots, somewhere, but
Mhm.
that our consciousness can possibly be in other places, and and it's like this, well, maybe even now we're in this simulated reality. It's, you know what I mean?
Right. I I loved the high ultra meta concept of it, because even though it was meta, it wasn't just meta, it was meta, meta, meta.
Meta
And
meta.
so that's what upset a lot of people, but that's what I found the most interesting about it. Because the original Matrix was exactly that. It was breaking down the barrier of precon co our preconception of what reality is. And then so we've already got that. We got that out of the original, Matrix. So, Lana Wachowski's going, "Okay, what else can I do to further deconstruct reality?" And I love that. I've joked that, I think only people who've done psychedelics could appreciate it. That's not necessarily true, but I feel like those that have done it would get it, would totally get it. And but so there's so much that I loved about it. I was laughing during the film, like I didn't in the original Matrixes, right? I,
Oh
wa-
no,
I
I
was
did
like,
laugh. The original
I
one,
was
yes.
laughing during the fourth because I was like, she's just commenting so hard on the corporation and Hollywood and what they took out of the original Matrix and like kind of diminished it to nothing else but just an action film. And for her, it
An
wasn't just that,
action. Yes,
right?
exactly.
So, but that said, like there was a lot that I had problems with. Just like some of the action sequences were like
They were a little light and
TV level.
yeah, I would agree with that a lot. I
Yeah,
don't want to, yeah, the action stuff was very, I mean, you're right. We've seen better stuff on like these long form
mhm,
TV series now with the
yeah.
effects,
But
but no.
so
Go ahead, please. Sorry.
do you? No, 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 no. Do you think that what evidence do you see that we might be actually living in a matrix?
Well, I mean, there's UFOs. I mean, if you if you suspend all your disbelief for a moment, right? And I
Mhm,
often try to do this. I say, I'm going to suspend all my disbelief. So we say, what if UFOs are real? What
yeah.
if ghosts are real? What if cryptids are real? What if there are interdimensional beings? Then
Mhm,
then it leads you to believe, like, what kind of matrix are we living in? Because after and you too, you've talked to all kinds of people in the paranormal field too, and you see that these people's realities exist and these things are real to them. So if you
mhm,
see that and you say, well, but then there's like this guy who just like goes to work, he pays his bills, he feeds his family, he goes home, he just watches TV. But that guy's world and his matrix is just normal 9 to 5. So to me, you see those things and like all these different little things, like are there interdimensional beings? Are there ghosts? Are there time slips? And you hear about all these people having all these experiences all over the world, and it just makes you wonder. It can't There's so much more to the world than what we can see with our two eyes.
mhm,
And to me, part of escaping the simulation is one, kind of pulling yourself out from that mainstream media, social media, fake internet simulation. And then
mhm,
the other thing is to expand your consciousness to see what other things are there in this world so that we can escape the simulation. When you look at and I like to think about everything like a video game, if you think about a video game, and if we are in a video game, it is a simulation. And every day, video games get more real and real with their simulation. So how do we know we're not in an ancient simulation? Theory, just Jess.
Right? No, it's a good theory. So ancient simulation, but we still have our consciousness, right?
Yeah.
So just like Neo in the Matrix, he doesn't understand the greater reality as it is, but he is still self-aware enough and can reflect that there is more. He still is himself, whatever the self is, right? He
Yeah.
still has a soul, as it were, because when he exits the Matrix, he's Neo under a different name, but he's still has the same experiences. And even though the question is, well, were those experiences real or not, it doesn't change the fact that you still have yourself, whatever
Mhm.
that is. And he was different and other people were different. They could find their way out of the Matrix, or discover new things, or look to the skies like we do, and be curious. And it does, I mean, of course we could be totally ignorant, but it does seem to me that it is of our own volition. Not like, whereas some of the other programs in the Matrix were software. They were
Mhm.
programmed. They had zero control over their own choices. Whereas the people in the Matrix had choices, but they were just limited what they could choose from. Does that make sense?
Mhm, mhm, 100%. It's and you and then when you and then what's great too about the Matrix 4 is they have a game, like a MMORPG of, like, the Matrix in the movie.
Yeah.
So when you think
Yeah.
about that, you think about people as programs, right? So you're a little
Mhm.
program, but you become conscious that you're in a program, and then you know more. But then there's the lady that just goes to the market, and that's like that's her program. She goes to the market, you always see her, blah, blah, blah. It's just
Yeah.
when you think about that, yeah, and one thing, I did enjoy about the movie too was the fact that, like, when you saw Neo or you saw Trinity, they look like themselves, kind of representing their soul self, but other
Mm.
people to them, looking at them, they did not look like Keanu Reeves and Carrie Ann Moss, you know?
Right. Exactly. Yeah, and that was an interesting, and that was one of those things that I think it didn't spend enough time exploring or explaining,
Mhm.
because it
Mhm.
was just like a lot of what is in that movie, I feel like should have been over 2 films, or like a 3-part series, because there was just so much to unpack. I think that was one of the weaker parts of it. Like, I was like, "Whoa, that's really cool," but then it was like moving on to the next thing. I was like, "Wait,
Moving
wait."
on.
Yeah, yeah. So have you actually seen a cryptid?
I've never seen a cryptid. I wish I had. But I've never seen a cryptid. Not part of my reality, but I do have a little Mothman up here from my brother gave it to me, but I've never seen a cryptid. Um, I talked to a guy once who said he had a Bigfoot footprint, but it broke, so he couldn't show me. So that was the closest I came to any cryptid type thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can certainly go online, right, and see plenty of
Yeah.
impressions of Bigfoot footprints. Um, w- so you've not seen a cryptid? Have you ever seen a ghost?
I haven't seen a ghost, not like seen a ghost, but I've seen evidence of ghosts of them like moving crap. You know what I mean? Like moving crap and making it cold or whatever. But I would love to actually like see one, but I'd probably get scared. So maybe that's why I haven't seen one. But I used to work in a building that was haunted. It was quite old, and we would often see different things moving on their own, and it would be multiple people seeing it. So I've seen ghosts move bags, turn lights on, close drawers. You could hear it type on the computer.
Yes. Yeah. It seems to me most people who have had some kind of odd experience in their life. So for you, it would be the lights in the sky.
I guess so.
Okay. What about psychic though? Because I feel like that's at least something that we've all shared. Have you had that sense when someone's going to make a phone call, and
Oh,
you're
tons.
going to call them,
Tons.
or a shared intention?
Yeah, I guess people would call me, I don't know, sensitive, an empath, whatever.
Mm.
But like, yeah, no, like that stuff is totally normal to me because that's how I grew up. That's kind of how I am, like I'm very sensitive. So when you say see ghosts, I see ghosts like in my like third eye consciousness, but I don't
Right.
see them like as a physical being.
I think
Like I know they're
that's
there.
common.
Yeah. Yeah, and like, experienced telepathy before, with loved ones and even strangers before, things like that. Knowing when people are gonna call. I messaged you and you were thinking about it earlier when I was like, "Hey."
Yeah, yeah.
But no,
That's
it's like little things like that when you connect with people and they're like, "Oh, hey, I was just thinking about you," or, "Oh, hey, I was just gonna message you." These
Mhm.
little things, I call them like, it's like ringing the little bell. Like I was like ringing our little psychic string
Yeah.
and, it's just it's so normal for me, but too, I've only recently started talking about these things because I've been very nuts and bolts UFOs with the whole Rogie report for the past few years. And so I
Mhm.
put all that aside. Didn't talk about anything psychic, would not
Yeah.
talk about any of things that happened to me, but only recently with changing the show to escape the simulation, I've been more comfortable to talk about, psychic stuff because it's really normal and everybody has it. It's
Y
just
y
part of being human.
and that's why you changed the name of the show, so you can
Be
explore
more
those other topics without feeling cornered
like
into a
yeah,
yeah,
box, yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Because the Rogie report, if I were to talk about psychic phenomenon and consciousness, it didn't really fit, and escape the simulation fits so much more better. It's it's kind of it's interesting and freeing because I'm afraid people are like, well, Jess went full woo. What the heck happened? Well, what happened was, it's time to stop hiding everything.
True, and do you what was the inspiration for that?
Psychedelics.
Interesting.
And this is also something here's your scoop. I
Mhm,
That's your scoop because I've been working with plant medicine for more than a year and a half now, and I
mhm,
originally started doing it because I had read about the how many people were having success with anxiety and depression taking, microdoses of psilocybin,
mhm.
and so I said, "Okay, I'm gonna try it," and so I did. And, once the anxiety was kind of totally fixed, like, I was on a lot of prescriptions for anxiety. I was one of those people that basically the anxiety was holding me together, you know what I mean? Like, I was so anxious all the time,
Yeah, no,
and,
I get
it's probably the coffee too, I don't know.
no, the coffee, this holds me together all the time,
Mhm, mhm.
but too much can cause anxiety, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So
Mhm,
that's why I limit it to 2 a day, but through my usage and through my journey, other things started to happen. I started to be able to pull back and, like, view what I was doing and kinda see because I knew I wasn't happy being so nuts and bolts UFO and just talking about the news. I
mhm.
felt like I wasn't being fulfilled and it wasn't really truly me. So during these experiences, it just slowly changed me, and I didn't realize that it would fundamentally change my vibration by the anxiety being gone, allowing me to be more open. I started meditating more. And, I had a lot of spiritual practices before 2012, but after 2012, I just kind of dropped off and went straight into like just looking at UFOs. So I'm writing a whole article about this so people can understand it a little better. But
That's a good
no,
idea.
it's just like these then, I started feeling like, "Okay, I'm gonna start meditating again." So, like, I would take a day, and it would be,
Mm.
like, Sunday afternoon, and I'd say, "Okay, I'm gonna take, a certain amount, and then I'm gonna sit there, and I'm gonna meditate," and then I take my notes after, and I would write the measurements down, write how long it took and all this and that, because I was very interested, and I wanted to hit it in a little bit of a journalistic way too, so I could explain it to people later when I started to talk about it.
That was very smart, very forward thinking. Um, w what does it feel like? What's actually shifted? It just anxiety? Is it
I
something
think
else?
I think with the anxiety gone, that I was able to just kind of have these experiences, and it's very mind opening because you'd have these I would do these meditations
Mhm,
and I would just, start to see things in a different way, more connected, and seeing that, the path for myself, I wasn't gonna be happy, and I didn't know why I wasn't happy with just doing, like, a nuts and bolts UFO show. So it was all very gradual. It wasn't fast. Maybe if you take big doses, but I'm a microdoser, so that means it's very small doses.
Mhm.
Um, but it does change your mindset and the way you think. Also, like, I don't get angry as much, or like my temper is slower, I'm more understanding. And and it's not from continual usage, it's from, I think, the neural pathways that get connected, and your brain becomes more balanced.
Yeah.
Um, I feel much, much different and much more calm. Jess of like 2 years ago is a lot different than the Jess of today.
And so, do you love either one any more or less?
Nope, I love the Jess that was in that journey, and I love the Jess that's here today. Because we grow and we change. And I think for me, using that experience really helped me to be like, okay, there's so much more to this world, so much more. And there's
Yes.
so much inside of here. And to me, it's like we're all sitting here going like that. But also, when you meditate and go within, whoa, there's a whole nother world in there too.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, I think I first discovered that through plant medicine, as you say. Do you use different plants? I mean, mushrooms or
I'm a mushroom.
salvia.
I'm a mushroom person.
Okay.
I'm interested in trying other things, but a lot of them seem very intense. So I'm like, I'm just gonna, kind of take it easy. Like I'm
Yeah.
not even sure. Like I think if I was presented, like, oh, do you want to try DMT? I probably would try it because I'm very curious. I have
Oh,
not
sorry.
tried that.
I muted your mic for a sec. My bad. Um, so yeah, that's an interesting thing because DMT is a very short term experience. So I think that's why a lot of people are more willing to, because it's like even if it goes bad, it's done in 15
It's
minutes
done.
max.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Um,
so what is your psychedelic that you like to, or plant medicine you like to work with?
I don't anymore. I had a rather bad trip many years ago. Um, the opposite of microdosing.
Oh,
And
microdosing, hero's dose.
microdose. It was, yeah, and that was kind of a mistake, and it was horrible. And then there was one time after that that I took a very small amount, and it was a very lovely, mellow, calm, introspective. And then I was like, you know what? That's kind of how I want to end it. Like
Mm,
that was
mhm,
good. That was good right there. Um, and I over the years, psilocybin I'd used, and of course, in my early years, I don't smoke marijuana anymore, but I used to smoke marijuana, and I tried LSD and
mhm,
other things. Uh, so I just was experimenting and trying
mhm.
to understand my mind and the nature of reality and how I relate to it. Here's the danger in it. And it's very Matrix like, is that sometimes you kind of see you do you see the absurdity of the construct of society,
Yes,
and it's
100%.
very liberating and yet disturbing at the same time.
Horrifying,
It's horrifying. Yeah,
horrifying.
yeah, because you're going, "Well, I don't want to do this. Like, I want to check out of this nonsense. Like, what is going on? What are you all doing? What are we doing? What have we agreed to?" And then when you see all that, that's the part of it that makes me think that it's not a simulation of a like a video game. Maybe it's a Matrix like simulation, but not a video game, because I can see that humans have made the choice. We have agreed, we have created the societal construct together, and it comes out of the fact that we're an emotional species and that we run off of fear and this and that, and all of that doesn't require having to be like a video game.
Mhm.
It's human psychology. But once that veil is broken, oh my God, it's like I don't want to go back. Like I did not want to go back to work. And after several, trips, I was like,
Like,
each
wow.
time I was like, I can't go to my job tonight or tomorrow or what, like, what am I doing? Why do you want this hamburger?
Oh,
Like
like, I
whatever it
still want
was.
the hamburger, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, how do you process that once you have that experience?
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard, and, like, you know, I think too, because I did want to like say too, because I talk about these microdosing things and I'm like, they're great. But two, sometimes you still have a bad experience. And when we say bad experience, like Alan is saying, it's like you start to see things and you're like, oh man, I just want to go back to being normal, you know.
Mhm.
And it happens, and so that's a true fair warning for anybody too, if they're thinking about it, is that yeah, it's not all going to be sunshines and rainbows every time. So when
Mhm.
we talked about the Matrix, the first one, shortly after saw that the first time, I did some LSD, and I tripped the f out. I was like, the Matrix is real, guys, like
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
real, like.
yeah.
And it took me a while to, like, be like, "Okay, Jess, get back to normal. You still gotta go to school. You still gotta, like, be a normal person." But I remember when I had that realization that, we're like you said, like, we go into this world and, we have to work. We have to, like, be a part of the matrix and help keep the machine running. But 2, it's like pulling back. You're like, "Oh," and then there are people who don't play by the rules and play outside of the societal matrix, and you're like, "What the heck is going on?"
Right, right. Well, there's different forms of that in fact. Now, but I think the purest form is unplugging completely and living
Mhm.
off the land in nature. Like that's
That's
the
exactly
only way to do it. Like in its truest purest form. Because even if you're super rich and wealthy, if you're an oligarch, if you're a billionaire influencer and you can shape the you know through lobbying and donations, and you can shape the reality of dynamics between countries and society and corporation, and you're still a part of it. You might be able to have some say in the direction of it, but you're still inextricably stuck to it. So yeah, I don't know, what do you think is the way out?
I think, because we're stuck in this 3D world, the only way to get out is really, like you said, you got to move out to the middle of nowhere. You have to live in that way and get away from, like I said, the internet is both a tool and it's a tool. So it can be used for good and bad. But to pull yourself completely away from it, I think that's part of it. And if you can survive on your own without being connected, that's the truth of it. But is it possible? It's not possible for everybody. So for me, what I've been saying is, like, as much as we do, we still do have to exist in the matrix. We still have to eat. We still have to, take care of our families and friends and things like that. But the true freedom, the only freedom, is in here. It's in your mind, in your heart, how you perceive things and how you choose to live your life.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, because that's what comes next. Because you think, okay, so this is reality, even if it's a matrix, it is the world that we live in. Okay, if I accept that, now how do I function within it and still feel free? And I think that goes back thousands of years to the Buddha,
Mhm.
um, because the mind is more of a prison than the societal structure could ever be. And I know that sounds like a very insensitive thing to say, because it's easy for me to say in my comfortable chair here,
Right.
um, you know, that, oh, free your mind. And, well, what if you're jailed somewhere? What if you're a prisoner of war? What if the worst things we can imagine are occurring to you? It's easy to stand here and talk metaphysics and say,
Yes.
be happy. This is how you do it. Um, but ultimately, I think, especially anyone who has been through rough times, who's had personal struggles they've had to overcome, that the truth is, while it's extremely difficult, maybe nearly impossible, or impossible, I don't know, for some people, depending on the situation, the truth is that it's the mind that will, your ability to find joy within yourself. So even if I'm unhappy with a work or with how family members are behaving, like, there's always something. There's always
Yeah.
something. There's always some kind of outside force that is pressing in on us. And I used to deal with depression, and
Yeah.
anxiety and all that kind of stuff. And for me, gratitude is the way out. Like, like taking the time for like stop myself. So if I'm feeling crappy, just stop myself. Like, I know I joke around, but like,
Yeah.
hey, you know what? I have a little cup of coffee here. Like,
Yeah.
that's nice. I enjoy this. Yeah, or I'm having a conversation with someone, or hey, I have a car. Whoa, that's cool. Why not? Why not be grateful for it? That sense that we should just all take things for granted because it's supposed to be, deserving of whatever. I think that's our downfall. We should all want the best and the most for everyone and for ourselves, but I think we can do that simultaneously and still be grateful for like every little thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, like, yeah, the world is crappy. I mean, we're not saying it's all sunshines and rainbows, but if you find those little joys, then you're
Mhm.
able to like shift your perception and
Yeah.
feel a little better. I think if you talked to me like 2 years ago, even last year, I was still pretty darn depressed. And it was like and when you're in the midst of depression, it's very hard to see the bright side to things.
Mm.
And I think being able to overcome that for me has been
Mhm.
life changing.
Yeah. And so here you are. Um, w- what do you hope to achieve with the radio program and the semi new direction you're going in?
Yeah, well, I hope to, attract an audience that is interested in this kind of subject matter,
Mhm.
interested in diving into more of the realities of the world, learning about the simulation, being able to, explore consciousness. Because as I thought about this, and I hope it doesn't make people mad, but after, so many years of I'm talking about the UFO research again, is I realized I never had an experience. Thus, I'm sitting here championing a topic and talking about it and telling people, like, yeah, you got to believe. Yet I myself never had an experience. However, I have had many consciousness experiences, many psychic experiences, and many things that cannot be explained. So for me, to follow my heart and talk about these things made a lot of sense to me. So that's what I hope for. And I
Mhm.
hope to find the audience that enjoys this and really wants to know more. You know,
Yeah.
it's a wild ride.
It is. It's the ride that matters, though, right? Like that's because if it's always about the journey, then I think I'll never be happy. I'll never be
Yeah,
satisfied.
exactly. You gotta enjoy what's going on. Like me, it's like freaking 4 or 5 years ago, I was like, "I'm just gonna try this. I don't even know if it'll work."
Yeah.
And, back then I was like just finding old stories and then I just like talk about them and read them. And, I moved on. And it's like this all these changes and growths that occur. I don't know if this is the case for a lot of podcasters or broadcasters, but this is a big journey of learning when you do this. You learn so much, you
Yeah.
talk to so many people.
There have been times where I thought to myself, should I continue?
Yeah,
And I can't because I'm always learning. Because there's always something so enthralling or intriguing or enlightening that it's just like, man, I can't stop. I love these conversations.
I know. I know. I did take this huge, sabbatical back in, October. It was the longest break I'd ever taken, and this is where I was, like, going into a hole, taking psychedelics, just trying to figure out what to do, and I
Mhm.
thought back in December, I might not come back. I said, "You know what? Maybe it's done. Maybe I'm done with this journey."
Yeah.
But, like, situations happen, coincidences happened, and a
Yeah.
friend of mine was like, "Jess, I got this guest. You should totally have him on your show." And I was like, "You know what? Maybe that's the sign. That's the sign to bring it back." I was given a guest. Boom, the show came back. I came back within a couple weeks of it still being the Rogie Report back in January. We switched it over to Escape the Simulation, and here we are.
It's amazing. Okay. Talk about coincidence, right? So
Mhm.
I was telling you before we started that I was a hair's breadth away from changing Paranormal Now's name completely, but I didn't have the energy to and time to do it because it takes a lot of work because all your social media is associated with your previous show. So it's funny that you and I were both in the same boat,
Yes.
but you went ahead and did it. I also took my break in October
Oh, you did too? Shut up.
through December and came back in January.
Oh my god,
Yeah,
seriously? That is
totally.
hilarious. I did the
Yeah.
same thing.
Right? That's so funny. Now, I mean, is that coincidence or is that synchronicity?
Synchronicity, right? Both, I guess?
Maybe both.
Synchronicity, just
Yeah.
coincidence. No, but that's really interesting because for some reason I just went black. I went dark after October and came back
Yeah.
in the beginning of June. I don't know why. I just kind of was like, I need to get away, and I didn't. That is so funny. What made you
That's
come
awesome.
back? Were you thinking about not
Oh,
coming back?
oh, no, I was definitely gonna come back. Well, I mean, of course, there's always moments of, it's nice to have all this extra time.
It's nice to be able to be like,
Yeah.
"Hey, I get to hang out this evening. I don't gotta, like, be like, 'Eat dinner quick, get on the radio.'"
Yeah. Well, for me, initially, it was we moved into a house, so
Mhm.
that whole process was just
Oh,
overwhelming. There's so much more than we expected, that we had to take care of. So that was the initial impetus. So like, okay, I got to put it on pause for a little bit because I got to focus on this. There's just not enough time. But then after you're living with it for a while, and then we're starting to get caught up on things that we wanted to get done, that thought was there. But no, I didn't. I, I, I couldn't put it down. I couldn't put it down. You know, and I don't think I ever could. I mean, I don't see why not. Why I would at this point, because
right.
I've kind of feel like I've gone through that. I'm sure a hiatus would come at some point again, because I think that is good. It helps give you a little perspective.
It does, it helps.
Mhm. Do you feel like you've approached your show a little differently because
Yes,
of the hiatus?
yes, 100%. 100%. I think even if you were to look at my shows from last year to look at the
Mm,
shows from this year, they are very different. Um, I think before too, even just as my show prep, I would spend 2 days writing every single little bit out, every single little tiny thing I wanted to talk about. This is where this is gonna occur, this is where this is gonna occur,
mhm.
and, I still do my research, but also too, I stopped over researching my guests because I was finding that, you're watching all the interviews and then they come on and then you're like, "Oh, I heard this, but I want to hear it the first time." So
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
how I approach my interviews now. I try not to over prep because I also now in the consciousness way, I kind of let it flow a little more. I still have my like 3 pages of talking points, but I don't really touch them as much anymore. I think the tone of the show is a little more different. It's not
Mhm.
so newsy and
And you're not trying to force, topics and questions and inquiries, and yeah, I agree with you 100%. Doing research, I learned a long time ago to not watch other people's interviews.
so
If I if I if I mean, sometimes I guess I have heard them in the past just
yeah,
because of listening to other people's shows that I listen to, but to not purposely go and try to listen to an interview and to write notes based on what they're saying, because I do want it to be as fresh as possible. But of course, you always have to have your talking points and like questions in mind. But that organic process, which we both I think appreciate, because you like the live format,
love
the
it.
radio side. Yeah, me too. Yeah. So
It's
awesome, Jess. Thanks so much for being on here. Before we close up shop at this virtual diner, uh, what do you want to leave us with? Do you have any thoughts?
Man, I feel like I said so many things, but I would like to just say, if you guys think, like there's something to consciousness, take some time, maybe meditate,
Mm,
and just kind of try to find out for yourself. Because there's nothing that I can tell you that's going to give you that experience. And this is just, if you meditate and you start to take time to quiet your mind, then these things will start to make sense. And you might, be able to calm your mind and I guess escape the simulation.
hey, hey, hey. How does one escape the simulation?
Calming the mind, find researching, looking at things. I think for me, the most important thing is to realize that there is so much more to this world than we can see with these eyes here.
Mhm.
And once you kind of know that, it's like, wow, there could be like 5 beings in the room with you right now. Like, we don't actually know. You know what I mean? Like, how cool is that? I love movies, and I'll just leave you with this. I always thought, like, wouldn't it be cool if like sci-fi movies are real? And, you know, thinking about escaping the simulation, like some of these things are real, guys. And
Yeah.
that's the cool thing about it all.
Where can people find the podcast or the live stream?
You can find the live stream live every Wednesday on the fringe.fm TalkStream Live, the paranormal radio app. You can also catch my show live on YouTube. I do stream the video, so you can follow me at Escape the Simulation on YouTube and search on all social media, Escape the Simulation Radio.
Awesome. Jess, thank you again.
Oh, so much fun, Alan. I loved it.
All right. And if we all want to escape the simulation, which I believe we do, we know where to go now. And please check out Jess's show and podcast and social media. And I'll put all the links down below so you can find her easily. Thank you so much for joining. As always, please like, subscribe, comment down below. The regularity of posting on this YouTube channel is new for me. So I'm trying to grow the YouTube channel. So every little bit of help, comment, share, notification, alert, hit that bell. All that helps. So thank you so much, and peace and love, and live in the mystery.